Yeah, the mind is a very central topic to non-duality, and because it is the activity of consciousness that is creating the illusion of all content. So when you talk about duality or physical materiality or material physicalism, the paradigm in which we all believe we live in, we believe that we're existent physical material beings, human beings, opposed to a material physical world where consciousness is contained within us and the world exists or stands outside of that consciousness. So you have a consciousness contained in a being and a world around it. You have two opposites. So this is just a belief system that we have. It's beliefs, because the definition of belief is a statement that you accept or that something is true, right? So you're born with no language. So you don't have any statements when you're apparently born. So the only thing you're doing is knowing. If you weren't knowing, you couldn't accept statements, right? When your father is looking over your crib and saying, Dada, and you're like, yeah, that's Dada. You just accepted a statement. But to accept that statement, you had to be knowing. So you were already knowing. That's what's really here. And then you accept all these statements, and then you think that's Dad. You think that you're a human. You think that this is a world. So you just have beliefs here. You're living in a religious system of physical materialism. It's a religion that you're in, and you're totally brainwashed. You don't even think that this is a religion. Just this is truth. So the issue is that, okay, you were knowing, and before you accept any statements, there's only this knowing. And it turns out that the content in all the statements and all of the apparent things or objects, they're not really physical and material outside of a consciousness. They are literally made of the activity of mind. And because when I say the word mind, you're taking the word mind from the physicalist materialist paradigm that you're trapped in, that you think is real. So you think the mind is like something in a brain that produces consciousness or is involved with consciousness in some way. No, see, the mind is an activity of consciousness that produces the illusion of content. So, I came prepared this time. I have a little model of the mind. And here it is. This is the mind right here. Okay, see? It's this transparent vector. So this is the activity of consciousness. This is what the mind is. It's one of these things, okay? Now, it's an infinite number of these. So you have to imagine the mind is an infinite number of these little vectors. And what is this vector made of? It's made of two component vectors, one in this direction and one in this direction. And you'll notice if I hold it up to the camera, the mind is completely transparent. It's transparent, right? I'm holding it up, you can still see me, right? So the mind is transparent. You can't understand this concept because what is this concept made of? It's made of knowing this is not that. So a concept is this, that. Up, down, left, right, good, bad. You can't grasp it. You can't even see it because it's transparent. Not possible. Okay, so in order to see the illusion of content, I have to multiply two concepts together. They have to overlap. Okay, so if this down here is this is a concept. So here's one sept down here. Here's another sept here. So this sept we'll call black. And this one, well, what is black made out of? What is the concept of black? Well, black is made of knowing that it's not this orthogonal potential of not black. Okay. Then I got another concept. We'll call this one triangle, not triangle. So this down here is triangle, and this one up here is not triangle. When they overlap, what happens? Oh, look, you get the illusion of a black triangle. The overlapping, when I'm paying attention to this and ignoring this, and paying attention to this and ignoring this, they overlap and you get a black triangle. Because you're ignoring not black, not triangle. If I pay attention, if I flip this and I say, okay, instead of paying attention to triangle over here, I'm going to flip it to not triangle. And then I try to overlap them, and they don't, there's nothing there. It's still transparent. Because how can you grasp a not triangle? It's every other potential shape, if shapes are my basis. So this is what the mind is. It's consciousness knowing distinguishment, knowing duality. That's what the mind is. There's only consciousness. That's all that's here. So if you have the mind, which is like a concept, there's only consciousness there. It's transparent. It's infinite. There's nothing to grasp. Consciousness then interferes concepts together. Then it looks like there's content there. And so this is just something that we have to, it's very hard to even think about this or with all of the beliefs and the lexicon and how we were raised and are apparently raised and all, because see, when you you hear people like, oh, I'm going to go meditate and quiet the mind, but they're thinking that mind is thoughts. See, thoughts are not the mind. They're occurring in mind. They're just content. They're just these transparent concepts that are interfering, and then you think there's a thought there. You think there's an image there. So this thing is way deeper and more huge and more gargantuan than anyone realizes. It's total. You go sit down there and you meditate and you're like, I'm going to quiet the mind. And you think, oh, I did a great job. I didn't think any thoughts. Or, oh yeah, I was totally at peace. Well, if you were meditating, you opened your eyes and you saw a world, or you're still sitting on a chair, you didn't quiet the mind at all. You're fooling yourself that you quieted the mind. When I talk about when you become God, when you really, there's no chairs, there's no eyelids, you can't even open your eyes. There's no difference. There's no eyes shut or eyes open. The world is obliterated. This thing is gone. There are different states of awareness, right? Where, yeah, you can see the apparent world as yourself. You can see it as yourself and as God at the same time. I understand that. But when you go all the way with this thing, it's just God. You only see the transparency. You don't see the stuff there. If you see something there, that being is infinite. And you have to experience that yourself, or God has to experience it itself. It's not something I can describe, or you won't get it. You won't get it unless you're it. And so this is just the thing with the mind. I hear this all the time. Oh yeah, I meditated, I quieted the mind. Did your body disappear? Did everything totally transform? No? Oh, you're just thinking about thoughts? Well, that's not the mind. The mind contains the illusion of thoughts. But the mind is not just thoughts. The mind is an activity of consciousness. So the mind makes the image of these hands is the mind. Memories. So, I mean, a current thought or image representation of something you believe occurred in the past. So, again, because there's only consciousness here, and consciousness is knowing, and if knowing is, it's being. So, consciousness is a knowing being. Well, knowing is in the now. If we had a little timeline here, right? The past would be like from 0 to infinity, negative infinity. The future would be from 0 to positive infinity. The future is undetermined, so it's just completely blank. The past, I can look at from my current position, right? And I can look to, with the Hubble, right? I can look to 13.4 billion years or something. If the universe is 13.6 billion years or something, I can look to about 13.4 away, right? Okay, well, that's determined. It's in the past. It's known. But consciousness is knowing. It's not known. You're actually looking at knowing when you see the farthest star away. But to you, knowing through this perspective, it's known. So there's only the now here, and knowing is in the now. So any memory is occurring now. There was only ever now, and everything you think in the past is actually now. It's just you're just conceptualizing your own being into the illusion of time. But it's a memory is, yeah, if I have a memory that's just a thought, like, oh, I remember driving the tractor when I was a kid and running over some vegetables and my dad got mad at me, right? Okay, so this is just the thought that's occurring now. That's all it is. That's all there is to that. The other thing, again, the mind, this is a very deep topic because it's all occurring now. That memory of the thought is occurring now. And Seth driving the tractor is also occurring now. I don't have access to it as the illusion of a Seth composite with, see, a Seth is just made out of all these concepts interfering. There's not just two, there's an infinite number, and they composite together, and you take this to be a Seth. That's what you're taking to be a Seth. These concepts, it's all static. All these concepts are occurring in a static, solid state matrix of like concepts. And then it's just consciousness saying, I'm going to know this limit or this sept and not this one. And by knowing the different septs, right, it's making the illusions of things coming into and going out of existence. This appears like it's not occurring, now it's occurring. Now it's not occurring, now it's occurring. And so like a computer system, just going from 1 0 1 0 1 0, it's doing that all the time. It's just knowing this infinitely for infinitely every apparent thing. Like there's an oxygen molecule right here, right now. Now it's not there. Now it's there. Now it's not there. Now it's traveling across the room. It's just doing this for every single concept in a solid state matrix of knowing. It's completely there. So the concept of Seth being on a tractor, right, is here right now, except I'm paying attention to not being on the tractor. I'm paying attention to the infinite Seth of not being on tractor right now. If I could pay attention to being on the tractor, being 6 years old, being 1970, whatever, if I could pay attention to all those concepts again, or those limits within the concept, then I'd be back there.